Hi everybody, thanks for watching Voice the Meeple. I'm Andrea.
And I'm Danny.
And tonight we're going to be reviewing Crusaders by Tasty Minstrel Games. A little overview of the game. It's a Euro-style area control-ish game. You're trying to spread across Europe, fight bad guys, and place your buildings on the map. It's a rondel-style game, so you have a rondel on your board in front of you, and when you take a turn, you have 5 different actions on this wheel. So if I choose this action, I'll lift my tokens and distribute them, across the wheel. So I'm not just deciding which action do I want to do, but which actions should I build up later, which is really interesting.
Yeah, because with this one, it's different from other rondel systems. The one that you choose, the action that you choose, the amount of tokens in that space determines how powerful that action is. So the more you have in there, the better that action's going to be.
Okay. That's the basics of the game. Want to talk about some likes and dislikes?
Yeah. The main thing that I like about this game, the number one thing, is a certain ratio when it comes to complexity.
Yeah.
So when we talk about how complex a game is, usually you kind of just lump everything into that one metric. It's complex or it's simple. Yeah. But really there are multiple ways a game can be complex. And one of those ways is in the rules, or how hard it is to learn. Think about how long does it take to explain this game to someone else, and when you're playing the game the first couple of times, how many times are you going back and looking in the rule book?
Yeah.
That's kind of a metric for that type of complexity. And in that one, this is a very simple game on that metric. It took me maybe 5 to 10 minutes to explain the game to you.
It was quick.
And I think we might have looked back at the rulebook maybe once the first couple times we played.
Yeah.
Very simple to grasp, very simple rules. But then you have this complexity of strategy and the choices that you make. Think about when I'm making these choices, how fulfilling is it to go down one path and
have everything align and
very interesting decisions you have to make during the game.
Yeah.
And in that metric, this game is very complex. So it's got a unique ratio. Yeah, on that measure. And you can think of the counterpoint of other games probably where it's so hard to learn. You're looking at the rule book a bunch of times and you're like, is this really worth it?
Like
what I'm doing, what I'm getting out of this game for how much I'm putting into it,
Yeah.
So this game really excels on that metric.
Yeah. I really like the design of this game, and I think that really helped with that. It's very clear and well labeled. I think it's beautiful to look at. I love the map of Europe. I speak French, so I'm attached to that anyways. Love that we commence in France. I think the design was really well done, and it's easy to see. Do you want to get a shot of that?
Let's show them that.
All right, let's see it. So we wanted to show you how the components are well designed and explain gameplay very well. Each action is really clearly labeled with an image and a word. If you build a building, like this one allows you to get more influence and it matches that sign, or this one allows you to have a better mustering ability and it matches here. The points are really clearly laid out on brightly labeled banners. I love how this design fits in perfectly with the knights around the edge. The components are really solid, good thick cardboard. I wanted to show you when you upgrade, instead of having a choice of just one action, you get 2. And it gives you a little, like in, what is that called? Faded color. Shows you what's going to come if you choose to upgrade. So it's really clearly laid out. The pieces are interesting. I like the bright colors. It's good design.
So another thing that I like about the game, it is asymmetrical. So you have the different orders of the Crusaders that you can play as. So this one is the Order of Montesa.
I can't pronounce it. I'm going to say Alcantara.
And they are historical, has little blurbs about them in the rule book. So each one has different starting conditions, different amounts of tokens that you actually start with. So you can start with as many as, I think one of them starts with 14, and one of them starts with as few as 6. So big disparities in different powers that you have. And that's a really, I always love games that have that because it increases the replayability. You want to play as each one to see what they do, and the combinations and playing against different styles. That just is a really fun thing for me. Another thing that I like about the game, we talked about some of those interesting decisions that you make in this game. One of them that's fascinating to me is with the rondel wheel. So on your turn, you basically just have 2 choices. You either do one of the actions on the rondel wheel
and distribute
the little tokens, or you upgrade and you don't do an action. And that right there just makes for a really interesting dynamic because you really don't want to miss out on a turn. It can have big...
It's quick. It's a quick game.
It's a quick game, yeah.
Ish.
And it can really hurt you to miss out on a turn. But at the same time, having the upgrades is huge.
It is.
Depending on which upgrade you do. So just that decision, when to upgrade, which ones to upgrade, depending on your faction and where your tokens are, it makes for some really interesting decisions.
Yeah. How about some cons? What you got?
Yeah, for me, and we disagree on pretty much all of our dislikes about this game. So it's
counterpoint.
Yeah, we're gonna do point counterpoint here. So one con for me, I feel like it gets a little abstract in some of the mechanisms on the board, the map itself. So you'll notice it's the map of Europe, but it's all hexes, and pretty much they're all equal. Yeah. It doesn't really matter where you go and build. There are slight benefits for building in certain spaces. You'll put these out at random at the start of the game, and they give slight benefits for building certain buildings in those spaces, but it's minor. I feel like it doesn't ever make a huge difference, and the enemies are just kind of randomized too. There are 3 types of bad guys you're fighting, but they're just at random. You have the Saracens in this game have taken over Sardinia. Who are they? The Slavs have taken over Corsica. It's not historical, it's just random. For me, I would have liked to have seen something a little more thematic and historical, where certain places that were important at the time give a big bonus, or things like that. So maybe Rome, the place where Rome is, has a big bonus for getting there. You want to try to get there, or Constantinople.
And culturally significant buildings, or trade routes should have more banks, or things like that. Personally, I didn't feel that way. I like abstract games, and I think that if we had very significant hexes, it would make the game more confrontational. Right now, it feels like each one is about the same, so there isn't a huge fight over individual hexes, which I like.
Yeah. Yeah, and another thing kind of going along those same lines is the battles. You're fighting the 3 different factions, the Slavs, the Prussians, and the Saracens. And with the Slavs and the Prussians anyway, it's just kind of a boring mechanism in my opinion for fighting them. Okay. They start out at 3 health or strength, if you want to call it that. You have to have at least that much strength when you're crusading against them to beat them. And then you just beat them, you get that many victory points, and you push them up 1 space. So now they'll be at 4 strength, and the next person that fights them has to beat them with 4, and so on. So by the end of the game, they're very strong. I just think it's a little simplistic and boring. And
as long as you have that strength, they're beaten.
Yeah, they could have made it a little more interesting somehow, I think.
And for me, I actually really like that because it's predictable, and so I can plan for it. And I think the idea that timing matters is important. So when you're trying to decide where you're going to go and when, you can rack up the health value of a certain enemy, for example, and block off your opponent. I like that. If I have planned for it, I will have enough, and there isn't an element of luck or anything else I have to worry about. That's something I like about it.
Yeah, it does lead to some interesting decisions, though.
Yeah. One other thing with the game is, for me, I didn't love their choice of theme. I love the mechanics and the gameplay and all the choices that I make, but the Crusades have a pretty negative connotation for me. I'm not excited to play a Crusader. So I would prefer that they'd chosen something else spreading across Europe rather than embodying that kind of dark time for me.
Yeah, the first time I pulled out the rulebook and I was like, oh, we can read about the orders that we are playing as. Andrew was like, I don't want to learn about them. She didn't want to read about it. She didn't want to read about it. For me, I find it interesting. It's a piece of history, but I agree they could have gone with something a little less controversial. And as a counterpoint, they did bring down the controversy as much as they could with this, and he talks about it a little bit in the rulebook. You'll notice the map ends at the edge of Europe, so you don't go into the Holy Land and fight over Jerusalem. You're just going around building buildings and building up influence. That's what the victory points are called throughout Europe, they did keep things a little ahistorical for that reason, I think. It
seems like they had this great idea, recognized an interesting theme, and then thought, oh, wait, we better dial it back. I mean, why not switch to a different theme?
Yeah, you could have just been generic knights going around Europe or something.
Yeah. But we've really enjoyed playing this, and we both recommend it.
Oh, yeah. It does scale very well. We've played it 2 players and 4 players. There's a flip side to this map. This is the 2-player side. On the other side, there are more hexes, so it goes a little bit further,
Mm-hmm.
and you play with more victory points. You play the game until you're out of victory points, and it scales up to 4 players. So we think it scales very well.
Yeah.
We highly recommend this game. We have really enjoyed it. Can't wait to play it again. It's going to make it to the table a lot. So.
Yeah. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.
Bye.